Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome all of you to the Mayoral and County Commission Candidates Forum sponsored by the Dunedin Chamber of Commerce. First and foremost, I'd like to recognize and thank the two candidates who have chosen to run for the office to serve the city of Dunedin as mayor, and the 6 who have chosen to run to serve Pinellas County. Please join me in a round of applause for them. Thanks to the City of Dunedin and the staff at the Hale Center, especially Elaine Swinehart, for hosting this event. I'd like to thank the board of the Dunedin Chamber of Commerce, Jim Graham, past chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee, and Luann Reese, current chair of our Governmental Affairs Committee, for their hard work on coordinating the event. Thanks to Sally Parks, former president and active member of the League of Women Voters, for agreeing to moderate our forum, and Marty Falwell from the League for serving as our timekeeper. A special thanks to Dunedin Television for taping and rebroadcasting this forum. The Supervisor of Elections Office is also here for those who still need to register to vote. The cutoff is on October the 6th, or if you want to change your voting status so that you can vote by mail, he can also take care of that, and he will be here during the break. November 4th is an important election for our community. The Board of Directors of the Dunedin Chamber of Commerce supported this forum as a public service to our community voters. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sally Parks, who will serve as our moderator tonight. I'd like to invite her to the podium to explain the ground rules and get our program started. Sally?
Thank you very much, Pete. Thank you very much and welcome. What a fantastic audience. I can be sure that the candidates are going to say this is certainly the best audience they've ever seen. Now, you don't need to take your time to thank the audience for coming. They're glad to be here and they want to hear what you have to say. So don't take your time doing that. And I might say that Marty Falwell is also a past president of the League of Women Voters. She's the lady in red right here, and she's your timekeeper, and she will hold up a sign at 30 seconds, and she will hold the sign up at stop. And when she says stop, she means stop. So please do that. So I'd like to first introduce the two candidates running for County Commission at Large, District 2, and that is Pat Gerard and Ed Hooper. That's one seat, and that's a county-wide seat. The other seat is 4 candidates that are running for District 4, and so I'll introduce Carl Falkman, Marcus Harrison, Mark Weinkrantz, and Dave Eggers. And all of them are really wonderful candidates. I've heard them speak before, and they've got a lot to say. Tonight's forum, then, is an opportunity to give all 6 candidates an opportunity for a 2-minute opening statement to introduce themselves and their background, and this will be followed by questions that each of them will have a minute and a half to answer. So they will all have the same question. And, you know, I don't want to explain it. This is a little complicated, but we are going to rotate the questions so not everybody has the first question, and not the same person has the first question every time, etc. We've got this worked out. Trust us on this. But we did have a drawing about who was going to speak first on the opening statements, and so starting with Carl, he is first. The questions, when we get to them, will be that everyone will have a chance to answer them. All candidates will have a chance to answer them. So let me start first with the introduction of the first speaker. Let's start at the other end, if you don't mind. Let's start, just to keep everybody on their toes. Let's start with, and we had a drawing, so Ed Hooper is the first speaker. Mr. Hooper?
Are you sure this is the way you want it, Sally?
Yeah,
okay,
I do.
Just checking.
I do. I'm committed now.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Ed Hooper, and I've been a resident of Pinellas County for almost 43 years. And I still care about this county. That's why I'm going through this process, because it's important. This is a county-wide race. I've served the city of Clearwater for 5 years as city commissioner. I'm finishing up my 8th year in the Florida House as a member of the Florida House of Representatives. And now I care enough to come back and campaign countywide to help this county become what we all want it to be, paradise forever. And this is important, folks. The county is going to spend $1.9 billion of our money. And we need to make sure they do that correctly. And we need to make sure that we concentrate on jobs. And let me tell you why. Congressman Young did a great job of making sure that this county, which is number 2 in the state for manufacturing jobs behind Miami-Dade, you would be amazed how many companies today are defense-related, high-tech manufacturing jobs. And when those contracts expire, those companies are going to lose those federal military contracts. We have to step up our game to make sure that your kids, my kids, grandkids have a job available for them that pays them a good wage, that they can stay in this county, they can get a good college education, and raise their family here so you can all visit your grandkids. It's time to resolve the fire and EMS issue that's been festering in this county for 25 years. 28 years of my life I devoted to fire and EMS service, a fire officer and paramedic. So I think I am prepared, ready, with no on-the-job training to be your county commissioner at large. I look forward to the questions. I look forward to meeting the few of you that I don't already know. But I want to end by saying I am so impressed that you care enough to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Pat Gerard. I'm also running for District 2. I'm the current mayor of Largo, and I've been the mayor for 8.5 years and 6 years on the commission before that. Professionally, I work in social services. I've worked with domestic violence and homelessness, mental health, all sorts of things, actually, but most for the last 25 or 30 years in administration of those agencies. As a commissioner and mayor of Largo, I've represented my city in county-wide boards like the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Pinellas Planning Council, the Homeless Leadership Board, EMS Advisory Committee, and I've worked across the aisle on all of those boards, and that's one of the things that I'm proudest of, that we have been able to keep politics out of working for what's best in Pinellas County and what's best for Largo. What I guess the other thing that I'm proudest of is working with our businesses. When I took over as mayor, we had a reputation of being, if there are any construction people in here, you will know this, we were the worst place in Pinellas County to do business. You know, you would walk in the door and we would tell you one thing and then a week later tell you something else, and it would take months and months to get a permit. And we changed that. We brought in the small businesses, and it was primarily small businesses. We brought them in, we asked them what it is we do that makes you crazy, and then we came up with a plan together with them. And we're this year just implementing the last part of that plan, which was the most expensive part, the online permitting process, which is really just gonna make everything wonderful. I would love to have your vote sometime between now and November. Some of you will go home and find your absentee ballots on in your mailbox. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those were the 2 candidates for District 2 of the County Commission. Carl Folkman is going to be our first speaker for the District Force.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Folkman. I'm running for County Commission District 4. I am the NPA independent candidate, one of them in this race here. I lived in Pinellas County for well over 20 years. My wife of 21 years of marriage and my 2 boys, 10 and 11, Ethan and Alex. We've been in the, as mentioned, we've been in the county now for 20 plus years. I love Pinellas County. I've seen this county grow in a lot of good areas. I've seen this county grow in a lot of bad areas. There's a lot of key things that are happening in this race and a lot of important issues. And now some of you that got your mail-in ballots, it's important that you look at those and look at the candidates in there. 4 years ago, I actually ran for this race, and I made a prediction. And unfortunately, some of those predictions have come true. Our taxes have gone up. You're being charged fees in parks that you already are paying taxes for. It goes on and on and on. And I look back and I said, this can't be right. We have to fix this. We can't keep going the direction that we're at. But nothing came to me as horrifying as what our county commissioners did in 2012. And that is we cut the budgets of the veterans, 93,000 strong, ladies and gentlemen, that were cut. And I've been to so many places and held the hands of men and women across this county that need the help, that so desperately need the medications and the understandings to fill out the federal forms. And nobody has stood up for them in this county except for me. And I will continue to do that. I've walked the precincts before. I know how to make this county work and be a better place. And I think I can do the job. I am up for the job. Let's do it together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marcus Harrison. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 4, as a MPA independent candidate. I've always been registered as an independent candidate. I grew up here in Clearwater. I'm not native, but since elementary school, I went to Skycrest Elementary, JFK Middle School, Clearwater High School. After Clearwater High School, I went into the Navy, served for 22 years submarine service. I work in nuclear power. I supervise the operation, maintenance, and repair of the nuclear reactor and propulsion plant equipment. I have a highly technical degree, technology background in supervising, looking at details. What the Navy does for itself instead of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that operates and maintains and inspects our reactors throughout the nation, the Navy does its own, okay? They've sanctioned by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, so we have our own programs where we look at how we do our business. We're constantly evaluating what's going on. That's what I can bring to the County Commission by looking at what's going on, looking at not just, okay, this is what we're buying, this is what we're getting, but are we getting what we're paying for? And that's what I want to make sure we do. We spend a lot of money in this county, as Mr. Ed Hooper indicated, $1.9 billion in budget, and also we have Greenlight coming up. That's going to be a huge expense if that passes. So what I want to make sure is that we have the ability to make sure that when we have something passed, that we are getting actually what we pay for. I do a lot of power quality inspections now. I do acceptance testing, and what I find is most of the stuff is not meeting specifications. We need to make sure that happens. Thank you very much. My name is Marcus Harrison again.
Good evening, Dunedin. My name is Mark Weinkrantz, and I got to tell you right off the bat, I love Dunedin, and that's a throwaway line, but I like it so much because my daughter got married here. I go to all the events I possibly can attend. But the most important thing that I need to get across is I owe everything in my life to my service in the United States Air Force. They trained me, they paid me to go through college, and it's given me the opportunity now as an airline pilot to go ahead and, as I say, have the smallest, noisiest office in the world with the most incredible view. So when you come in and I get to fly into Tampa, I've been all over the world, and I fly into this area and I see Honeymoon Island, I see the downtown, and I know what a jewel, what a gem of an area this is and how we have to preserve it and protect it. And that's the up-high view. But when you get down low and you get up close and personal, a place like Dunedin, we celebrate Dunedin because they don't have tolerance here. They embrace people. They embrace the differences in people, whether it's LGBT or the arts or people of Hispanic background. Everybody has a place. Everybody feels welcome. And when people ask me about, well, what do you think? Should we live in Dunedin? I say, go to YouTube and look at the REM video, Happy Smiley People. Everybody's seen that, right? Half of you have probably been in it. What I bring is that view. I've seen the up-high view. I've seen the up-close view. I've been there in an airplane where there are 400 people tied to me, and I am the guy in the moment that has to put the airplane on the ground. There's no go-arounds. There's no options. The autopilot can't do it. There's not always a magic button, as much as we'd like to think there is. And that's the big view. On the small view, I sit across the table from children all the time as I mentor, and I know what their challenges are, and I do my best to empower them and give them hope for the future. My hope for the future, my vision for Pinellas is getting ahead of things and making this and keeping this the jewel that it is in Florida. My name is Mark Weinkrantz. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Dunedin, and of course this is Done Our Way, and this is just the beautiful the people that came out tonight. I just can't believe it. Great turnout compared to many of the folks that we visited around the county for the last 7 or 8 months. Thank you for coming out. I'm really excited and honored to be here. This is a really important position in this county, and I feel that the things that we've accomplished together in the city, the things that I've learned, certainly become transferable at that next level. And I think it starts with public safety, it starts with infrastructure, public safety committees, our stormwater, it goes into economic development, trying our best to keep the Blue Jays in town, bringing Achieva here, doing strategic planning in our corridors, and making ourselves business friendly. In addition to that, we have embraced the tourism aspect of our city by partnering with the Chamber of Commerce and partnering with Visit Dunedin. Those are things that continue to be important. We become even a more friendly veteran community by becoming a Purple Heart city. Those are the things that this community has continued to embrace and the things that we continue to do well. One of the things that we did during the tough times is our residents were losing their homes and their jobs, and we decided it was important to have a social services committee, to be a 211, to help them as much as we could, to help the residents that were hurting. We also support environmental efforts here in the city and did it through our recycling program, through our 111, our new solid waste program, and some of the Cedar Creek cleanups. I'm a small business owner. I've been that way for 25 years, working with small businesses and entrepreneurs. I have also got a wonderful family. My wife's in the back. She's been a big help. She's provided 2 of her children to me and shared them with me, and their 4 animals are now ours. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time as the mayor of this city, but I do think that my interaction with residents, staff, employees, people in this county make me qualified at the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All 6 candidates are going to be answering now 3 questions, starting with this first question. And I'm starting with Pat Gerard at the end, because we're switching those 2. And then Marcus will be the first person to answer the question, and we'll cycle through those 4. Okay. So the first question is, are we getting the best? Oh, this is 90 seconds, a minute and a half. And you will have the same kind of signs from our timekeeper. Are we getting the best value for our tax dollars using the current EMS system?
Yes. We have the best EMS system in the country. We've gone through a few years where you've heard a lot about EMS, and I think a lot of the crisis that we heard about in EMS was created by the staff at the county. We just signed a 3-year contract with county, as did most of the cities have already signed the same contract. This program is sustainable. I know for me that I want to maintain that 4.5-minute response time that we currently enjoy. I don't think there's any reason to diminish that system, to close fire stations, to whatever, to provide fire transport, which is something that the firefighters would love to do, but there's really no reason to do it. Again, we have the best system in the country, and that's what I want for my family and my community. As long as we can afford it, and I think there are some savings that can be had, but yeah, I want to keep it.
Wait for Marty to reset her clock. Well, I disagree. I will agree with one thing. We do have a Cadillac of a system in this county. And if we could afford, if it was sustainable, it would be great. How many of you have been on an accident scene where there's 6 vehicles for one incident? A lot of you have. Here's the deal. We have one of the most expensive EMS provider systems in the country. It is a Cadillac dual response where you always make sure that you get 4 qualified, trained medical people on the scene on every call as a minimum. Now, there are 5 communities in this county today that have state-certified, transport-capable ambulances. There is nothing wrong with those folks taking you or your loved one to the hospital. There is nothing wrong with that white ambulance with the orange stripes sitting in the fire stations, 70 of those scattered throughout this county. They sit in the 7-Eleven parking lot today. They're in that for 12 hours. They never shut the motor off. That's just a waste of time and energy and resources. There is a good way to do this to save money, to keep the response times as good as they have been, and to still provide you with the excellent care that you deserve.
Thank you. Same question. Let me just say this question again. Just go ahead. You can stand up, Marcus.
Okay.
But the question again is, are we getting the best value for our tax dollars using the current EMS system?
I would agree with Mr. Hooper there. I think we do have a Cadillac system. There's areas that could be improved, but I don't want to compromise that to our citizens. I think we need to maintain that service, but I would support the fire departments providing fire transport instead of the ambulances. One of the reasons why I say that is right now, if you've ever been through an intersection when an ambulance is trying to get through there, they have no control over our light systems. So they're having to fight to get through an intersection. How much time is that taking in response to getting somebody to a hospital? You know, so there are definitely some improvements there. I think if we just had our fire departments, the EMS, taking care of the transport, consolidating everything under one system in that regards, you know, maintaining our individuality within the communities like we have now, but allowing them to transport, I think that would improve our system. We might even be able to find ways to cut costs. And we know our fire departments are nonprofit. I don't think the EMS system or our ambulance services are. Thank you.
Mark?
This is very near and dear to my heart as a fire commissioner up in East Lake, chairman for 3. We're very proud up there to be part of the solution. They talked about the new funding solution that came out, and it's actually named for our Chief Jamison out of East Lake, because we helped avoid all the lawsuits, all the conflict that might have ensued, because we came to a common sense, out of the box kind of approach. That's what leadership is, and that's what we demonstrated. Now, we can talk about the transport back and forth, and everybody, we have our opinions, but we need to look ahead. We need to have the vision. We talked about small picture, we need to have big picture at this point. Sunstar operates in Pinellas County because they make a profit. Well, what we're looking at in the not too distant future with the reduction in Medicare and Medicaid payments, they might not make a profit. Are they going to come bid on a contract where they're going to lose money? The answer is obviously no. So the responsibility of a county commissioner is to get ahead of this, to have the vision, to have the plan in place. So if they leave on a Tuesday, come Wednesday morning at midnight, you have in place the same safety net, the same level of security, and the same service that you ensured the time before. This is what I bring to the game. It's a broad knowledge, things that I've taken, because when I travel around the country, I drop in on other fire stations. I say, how do you do it here? How do you do it there? And we take little pieces and I put them in my pocket. And there's sometimes not an absolute right solution, but we have to have the courage to make the best choice in the right amount of time. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I don't think this is what I would call a game. This is an extremely serious part of what we do in this county. Public safety is probably the most important thing. So the fact that they say that we have a Cadillac system, that we're spending a lot of money on it, I think the residents are happy with the responsiveness that we get. I agree, however, that I would like to take a look at how we deliver public safety or EMS safety countywide. I'd like to separate that up perhaps in 4 distinct areas of our county, bring the firefighters to the table to do that emergency response. I think that's just a natural thing. Many folks, you do the logic test, and residents all around are saying, why are we having 2 people, 2 organizations come to the same accident? And you look around the state and you look around this country, there are many systems that are set up that very same way. And so I think there's a real opportunity here to incorporate that, perhaps still use a private group to do transports between hospitals and nursing homes and that kind of thing. But I think on the emergency front line, our firefighters are best suited to do that. And I would like to explore that more while we have this pause the next 3 years. I think we're set for the next 3 years. I'd like to really look at it now. Thank you.
Well, and again, you've heard a lot of conversations here tonight. 4 years ago, I sat with Chief Angle, who's there in Palm Harbor, and we discussed this very thing. Most people don't realize that actually the company that runs along with Sunstar is based out of Dallas. And I sat with a lot of the men and women, fire rescue, some were just sitting there, and they said, you know, my family's here, I'm trying to make a living doing this, and yet, you know, when an accident happens, when they came to my house, because my 78-year-old mother-in-law used to have falls when she lived with us, and every time we would wait for the fire truck to come in, and we'd wait for Sunstar to come in, and you'd wait and wait, eventually you have to get away from an economic point of view, and it doesn't happen overnight. And so the question came about and said, look, what if we did over time, put it in the county budget? What if we started buying transport vehicles? What if we started training more and more of our local emergency people, and eventually came up to the private company and said, look, you know, we don't need you as much. We don't need you as much. Well, guess what? You know what? A point will come and they'll say, yeah, they might pull out, but there's other people out there as well. If we continue to keep paying these people and keep playing this game with them, we'll never get away from it. The problem is people don't want to address it 4 years ago because they didn't want to address it as today because of PAC money. Because this private company likes to go out to a lot of legislators and a lot of politicians out there and give them 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is in between there and hold on to that. It's a business that needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hooper, you're the first one on this next question, and it is, do you support the Greenlight Pinellas initiative? Why or why not?
Thank you, Sally. I do not support raising our sales tax to the highest amount in the state of Florida. Now, saying that, I do support transportation improvements. It is vital that we are able to move about this county in the best way that we can, and there's a way to do that. Folks, we have a penny for Pinellas tax today. That's called an infrastructure tax. Transportation is infrastructure. In 2 years, you're going to be asked to renew that 7th cent sales tax. Now, if Greenlight Pinellas fails, my goal would be to come ask you in 2 years, change the language at the legislative level to allow penny for Pinellas money to be used for transportation improvements. Now, I think the first thing we need to get off the table is a choo-choo train. But we do need to expand our bus system and make it a good circuit for people to get about and get to work and to come visit our beaches. So transportation improvement is a good thing. There is a method to fund that is available to us today. But I am not in favor of this county having the highest sales tax in the state of Florida and intend to vote no on Greenlight Pinellas.
Okay, well, I am a supporter of Greenlight Pinellas because I think, well, thank you, Karen. We are the largest urban area in this country that doesn't have a transit system that you can use to get back and forth to work. If you don't own a car in this county, you're lucky if you can hold on to your job because it takes 2 hours to get from here to Pinellas Park. Easily 2 hours. Unless you work right next door to where you live, you need a transportation system. When Mr. Hooper talks about using the penny for Pinellas, you know, those of us who work for cities and who do city budgets know that we use that money to buy police cars and fire trucks and do stormwater improvements. Anybody who's been a victim of the rains we've had lately and had flooding in their street or their neighborhood knows that we need a lot of work in our stormwater system in this county. I'm sorry, I'm not ready to give up the penny for Pinellas to buy police cars and other public safety sorts of equipment. I'm also not willing to use it for operating funds. So, and another point about EMS, I just wanted to say that it stands to reason as that the proposal that was done by the firefighters, they said, would save $8 million, and I've heard Mr. Hooper say that. Really, it will cost $8 million more because firefighter paramedics make a whole lot more than ambulance driver. Stands to reason.
Okay, Mr. Weinkrantz will be the first speaker. Let me repeat the question.
Thank you.
Do you support the Greenlight Pinellas initiative? Why or why not?
Thank you. I support Greenlight Pinellas, and as I brought up earlier, sometimes there's no perfect choice, but there's a best choice. And the best choice is to move forward. When you go around some of the buildings here in the county, they love to have pictures up on the wall in black and white of what the area looked like 50 years ago. Well, we don't get to take a Polaroid and keep Dunedin that way, or Safety Harbor that way, or Clearwater that way. We have to think about what's coming. And when they build it, they actually do come. We have to have a vision for places that are locuses of shopping and theater and entertainment, because people will move into those areas. It'll raise the value of homes. It'll gentrify areas that otherwise might even be on the periphery and be in a pocket of poverty in this county. I've seen it all over the country. Once again, they built the new Denver airport 25 miles away from downtown, and it was nothing there. Now it's a huge, thriving community out there because people live there, they follow their jobs, and they continue to spend money there and improve the area. In Orlando, they have Sunrail, and I had a geek of a co-pilot for a while. He's a train geek. And he said when they originally bought it, they got saved money and bought engines that had 33,000 horsepower. Well, that won't work. The ridership is so high they had to go back and buy 39,000 horsepower engines. So when you build it in an appropriate way with sufficient planning, it makes a huge difference on how you control the growth of your area. Thank you.
Well, I am also supporting green light. My biggest concern right now is that we have a transit system that just doesn't work. And people say, well, there's not that many people riding it. Well, if you had to wait an hour and a half for a bus, you'd probably not use it either. The transportation disadvantage, that's the name, are the ones that are using it. And yet there are many seniors who are wanting to use it. There are many college kids that are wanting to use it. There are many businesses that are needing to use it, and we have to improve the system. We've worked on this plan for about 5 to 6 years. No, it's not perfect, but it's the best plan that came forward. My biggest concern is that we're going to wait another 6 years before we can address this transit problem. And money's just not going to grow on trees. The current tax that we have in place is not enough to implement the bus system that we need, bus and BRT. I've always believed in crawl, walk, or run. I was a proponent of trying to do a half a penny and just the bus and bus rapid transit. That plan did not come forward, but I still thought it was important enough for us to move this county forward into the years ahead for our kids and for our grandkids, for the companies that are looking to relocate, for seniors that are looking to be more independent, all of that. I've said, let's go ahead and move forward and let our residents take a vote today, because it'll be 6 years again before we come back and address the bus problem that we sorely need to fix. Thank you.
Well, I am absolutely against it, and let me tell you why. First of all, it is two separate issues. Really, the green light plan needs to be separated. There's the bus issues and there's the light rail issues. Now in District 4, which is northern Pinellas County, the light rail is not coming up that direction side of it. You've read all the articles and those things. The bus system, by the way, there's a lot of veterans that ride buses in between there. But quite frankly, PSDA needs to get their act together a little bit too. They got a depot in between there that's got legal implications. They have buses out there that aren't working or haven't passed inspections. And you want to turn $2 billion over to these people? By the way, the leadership for the Green Light Plan, and you've read the articles in between there too, of the $345,000 that was supposed to be for Homeland Security. The issues go on and on. The light rail, I agree with Mr. Hooper and stuff. We can't put trains under the ground. This isn't New York. We don't have the infrastructure to put them high up. This isn't Walt Disney World. So where are you going to put them? Across the roads. So now you're standing there in traffic, and you think the train going by at X amount an hour is going to be any better in between there? It won't work, ladies and gentlemen. We need to fix the bus. The initiative needs to be defeated. We need to fix the bus system, make it work in between, and maybe we go back and reapproach the rail system, but instead of just doing it in Pinellas County, why don't we get Pasco and Hillsborough and Sarasota and everybody else involved, so it's not the ring, it's not the rope around the residents of Pinellas County to make it right or work for the rest of the Tampa Bay area. Thank you.
Obviously, I think if you recognize the symbol, I do not support Green Light Pinellas. Specifically, I don't support the rail component of that. I think what the county commissioners have done to us is made it an ultimatum, or PSTA when they provided it and the county commissioners voted on it. It's an ultimatum. In other words, they're telling us if we don't accept the rail component, the whole package, then we're going to have to reduce our bus service. All right. It should have been a walk, basically a crawl and walk kind of scenario. We don't need the light rail component of it. If you think about where it's going, we don't have the urban development. We don't have the development there. So we are going to be spending over $2 billion initially, and that was several years ago budget. So what is it going to cost us in reality? The light rail does not support any public transportation, the needs that we have right now. If I was at the forum last night, asked Susan Lotvala during debate, okay, if I'm up in Palm Harbor, I want to go down to the Rays Stadium. What's the best way using the system if it works the way it passes? She says, well, the bus rapid transit. You get on a connector bus, it'll take you there and go there. No way is it going to take me to the rail. I'm not going to be using that portion of the rail. The rail is targeted for those areas that are going to be developed along that route, which right now we don't have the businesses and we don't have the components. So we're paying for something, hoping people will come, and then we're going to have to start providing subsidies to get them to build in those areas. That's why I do not support the Green Light Pinellas. We need better bus transportation, but we don't need the light rail component. Thank you.
Okay, and the third question that each of the candidates will answer. Two baseball teams in the county, the Rays and the Jays, face uncertainty staying in their respective cities. What are you going to do to try to keep both teams here? Ed, are you the first one? I think so.
Well, there are two baseball teams here, and it's two different scenarios. As far as the Jays are concerned, this community will express their desires to their elected officials how to go forward and be the leader of that issue. Now, the state will be supportive. There is legislation that helps retain our spring training sites in this state because they're under attack every day. Here's the big problem. The big elephant is, what are we going to do about the Rays? If you've read the news lately, Hillsborough County is taking a very active role in trying to persuade them to come over there, and someday they may do that. Here's the only thing I care about. The burden of building a new stadium so multi-million-dollar players can have fun and some owner can increase his bottom line is not going to be on our backs. That's number one. If the owner of a Major League Baseball franchise wants to pony up several hundreds of millions of dollars to get an arena for his team to play in, that's a good start. Now, we can all be participants, but the burden is not going to be on the backs of the taxpayers. And I will tell you up front, I'm a baseball fan, I'm a sports fan, but I'm also a fan of watching how our dollars are spent, and especially those that are spent inappropriately.
Well, I too am a huge baseball fan. I agree that it needs to be a collaboration that will keep the Rays here. You know, I have high hopes that the talks that Mayor Kreisman is having with the Rays right now will bear fruit in terms of keeping them here. My bottom line is, I think, you know, that we watch our tax dollars, but that we also try to keep them in this area. You know, I'm willing to pony up either to keep them in this county or to help them stay in the region, because I think it's an important economic driver for our region. I'm also willing to take a look at bed tax to do some of that. Not all of it, but some of it. And I think there are some other creative ways that we can finance a new stadium if we really want them here. If we don't, I'm just as happy watching baseball on television, but I'd like to keep them here.
Okay, Mr. Eggers?
Well, I think there's two different issues here. One, our hometown Jays here have been a part of this landscape for years, and the folks that I talk to know the importance of having them in our community. But I also think that it's important for tourism in this county. Those bed tax dollars are supposed to be spent on promotion for tourism here and for capital for entities that actually enhance tourism. So bed tax dollars are going to be a big part of the solution to keeping the Jays here, as well as state money, as well as Dunedin City money. But the fourth component is the Jays. And when we sat down initially, that was one of the messages that I felt was important that we sent, and that was that this was going to be a partnership. And the owner of the Jays agreed. So that's the one thing, and I think we're working on that. We're going to kind of go quiet now, and there's going to be some negotiations going on between staff and the Jays, so that we can kind of work together to get a solution. On the Rays side, we have it's got to be dealt with at some point, either regionally or with St. Petersburg. The regional effort will be equity participation from various or municipalities, counties, etc., is the way you can handle that. I think that's a way to try to address it so that there's less risk in each community. But I do think that we're going to have to possibly look at they've got I think it goes through 2027. So they're going to be spending less money than the big money that would be required for a big stadium, I think, just to make sure that that stadium stays whole for the next 10 years. Thank you.
I was raised in the city of brotherly love, so you know that baseball team. But when I first came down to Florida, actually the game I came to was a Jays game and stuff. So and just seeing that and the crowd and the people and everything, I think it's absolutely fabulous. And that's one of the things that brought me over here to the Dunedin and Palm Harbor area and stuff. So it does need to be worked out. The raise is a different issue. I actually talked to somebody over at Carillon Park, one of the officials over there, and he said to me, well, you know, we had some meetings set up, and the raise never showed up, nothing. So if they have in their mind that they think this is going to try to build a $440 million stadium, and just because they're going to hold the people to it, I don't think the people of Pinellas County are going to let that happen. We're not going to be ransacked that way. Now, it's been mentioned in the papers recently by a state senator talking about, well, we should have the rail system because then everybody can go down to the raise, and that'll help the raise more. So now you might have a, quote, proposed $440 million stadium and a $2 billion transit system over here. I would love to know where all this money is coming from everybody, because God forbid if we fall into a recession, we are under very difficult times in our world in between here. I, as a resident of Pinellas County, do not want to be on the hook for all this type of money. These people have players out there that are making millions. You see the papers in between, you see their salaries in between, but I don't want to sit and look at my 9 and 10-year-old and say to them, hey, we can't have decent roads and do this because this guy's making $15 million. Thank you.
I sort of agree with some of the stuff that's already been said, but my position is I don't support our sales tax. I don't support from a county standpoint, taxes going to the Rays or the Jays. I think if they want to stay in the area, we have to provide enough incentive. The bed taxes are fine, that's tourism dollars, but from our ad valorem tax, our sales tax, property taxes, that should not be the case. I think they provide economic benefit to a certain extent, but you have to look at overall big picture. Our median income for the county is less than the U.S. median income. We are very impoverished in a lot of ways. We don't have enough jobs, we don't have enough economic development going on, or good jobs for high-paying wages. In other words, we have a lot of service industry that's paying minimal wages. One of the things with the manufacturing, they can't get good manufacturing technicians because they can't pay the wages that really need to be paid because of the competition overseas. So it makes it very hard. That's why our attendance levels. People don't have disposable cash to go to these kind of games anymore. So either we need to let them pony up and maintain it if they want to maintain a sports complex. The stadium that we have for the Rays, I think it's great. It's air conditioned, it's indoors. With the weather we have, why don't they stay there? Thank you.
This is one of those big picture items because it's a beautiful view to come down and see the stadium. We'll be flying and fly over the Trop. But the big picture here is the county. This really is, Mr. Hooper said, Dunedin has to take the lead with the Blue Jays. St. Petersburg has to take the lead with the Rays. The county should be facilitators. They should be in the room. They should be observing, offering suggestions, and trying to facilitate as much as possible, putting resources together. And this is a big picture item because this is also a regional item. If it moves to Tampa, if the Rays choose to move to Tampa, the big picture is there are people waiting in line to develop the land in St. Pete because St. Pete is booming. And they can make more money by building down there and providing good jobs in construction and providing housing to take advantage of all that's going on in St. Pete. And if it moves to Tampa and it's a bus ride away or possibly light rail ride away, we still have access and they stay close. And I love giving out this tidbit. We all talk about the cost of the Rays moving and how they're going to pick up and leave in the middle of the night. The reason they can make money with nobody in the stands is because of broadcasting payments. And those broadcasting payments, if they were going to try to move to North Carolina or they're going to try to move to Portland, they would have to negotiate $1 billion worth of contracts to displace the Braves out of Atlanta or the Seattle team out on the West Coast. And it's not going to happen in a hurry. We should be in the room. We should be part of the conversation, but it's up to the individual entities to set the path on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so those are the 3 questions that each of them are going to answer. Now the fun begins because they are going to draw a random question, and only that person gets to answer it. If the other person wants to answer it, they can do it in their closing statement, but, you know, it's just the pick of the draw. So here we go. I'm starting with Pat down here because I think she's the first one. And you pick the question, I'll read it, and then that'll give you a chance to think about it for 10 seconds or so. No, you can look at it if you want. Okay. How would you partner with smaller cities like Dunedin to create economic opportunities?
Good question. I think it's important not just to partner with the smaller cities, but to partner with the county, the bigger cities, and the smaller cities all together. We have a county economic development department that I think is fairly dysfunctional. I'm hoping Mike Meidell's not in the audience, but I'm not sure that it does the best it can do for the smaller cities, or even for the bigger cities for that matter, for the unincorporated areas. I think that this is something that we need to work on together. Economic development is a team effort, and I think we do some of that. You know, I like to say that the recession was not necessarily a bad thing. In some ways, it was painful, but it was not necessarily a bad thing in terms of making us start talking to each other, looking at backdoor operations with the county, and you know, consolidating. Thank you. Consolidating functions and just looking at where we can partner. And I think we need to keep that mindset as revenues are coming up. We need to keep that mindset of partnering.
Thank you. Mr. Hooper? This question is, do you support TDC funds, that's Tourist Development Council funds, going toward the Clearwater Marine Aquarium?
Wow, what a convenient question.
Yeah. You were a good picker, I guess.
Well, they're sealed up, so I didn't see them. Not only do I support our tourist development dollars going to the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, I support those dollars doing exactly as they were intended to do, to go out to those tourist-related entities that put heads in our beds in the hotels in this county. Now, until recently, the aquarium was not even allowed by law to ask for that consideration. I passed a little law that made that possible in Tallahassee, along with 24 other aquariums in the state. But in Clearwater, Florida, that little dolphin with a prosthetic tail and now a new star, Hope, is known around the world, all over the world. And people come to see those 2 dolphins, and they spend time in Pinellas County, and they spend their money, just like the Dolly Museum, just like every other tourist-related attraction that we offer to our visitors and our residents. There is nothing wrong with that consideration. When you spend money at a hotel and that money, that bed tax, comes into the county, that's the appropriate use for that tax revenue, is to spend it to keep attracting those tourists and make sure that we stay #1 in the whole country for tourism-related activities.
Okay, all the way down here.
Give me a good one now.
Okay. How would you gather more funds and partners for beach renourishment?
Good question. Ooh, I like them. Well, first of all, our beaches are, I mean, it's our #1 asset in between there too. I mean, that is why people come from all over the world to Clearwater, to Honeymoon Island, my favorite spot, all the way down to St. Petersburg. I think one of the things that you can look at there is, and I've been asked this question even when I've been out into the precinct stuff, is people ask, are you okay with federal funding out there for our beaches? Absolutely. Again, I think we need to do everything possible to help our beaches, make sure our beaches are clean. We've been very lucky, knock wood, that we haven't had any major hurricanes over the last couple of years, that we've had so much beach erosion and those type of things. But again, the crystal sugar sand is absolutely fantastic, and that's what people keep coming back. That brings taxes back into our county. It is one of the top reasons, and tourism, of course, is our number one business here and stuff. So I would be all for supporting any possible way as far as increasing using funds, whether it's federal, local, even in additional taxes in here, to help our keep our beaches clean and keep that sugar white sand going. Thank you.
I didn't write these questions. That's a little disclaimer. We are the only large county in the state without an arts council. What would you do to propose to support the arts?
The Arts Council, I support arts. I support our libraries. I support our economic development in a lot of ways. I think one of the things in the county that we need to do is better education, better opportunities to get the information out. We have a lot of activities going on, whether it be in our libraries, whether it be the art centers, our art shows that we're putting on. The chambers do that. They support a lot of stuff that's going on, but there's too many competing, too many things going on in the county and no one place. I think the county in itself should try to be a repository, a place to promote those items and have one center, sort of like our supervisor of election. If you want election information or whatever, you can go to that website, try to find that information. So from that, people from outside the state going in and looking at it, they can come to a central point, whether it be the county, whether it be just a council center. That's what we should have, so that we can make sure that anybody that's looking for those arts, not that it's just Clearwater or St. Pete, that it also covers Tarpon Springs, it covers Oldsmar. We have a lot of little hidden gems throughout the county that should be identified, so everybody can have that. We also have the Jolly Trolley. They put lettering and sign on there, but unfortunately a lot of our facilities don't have a lot of money. Right now money is tight, so we need to work in collaboration as much as we can. Thank you. I didn't put the 30 seconds.
Do you have another arts question in there, Sally? Oh, this is yours.
How would you partner further with the county and chambers of commerce to enhance a tourist experience while here?
Well, the arts would be a great opportunity. Thanks for asking the question. Because not only does it raise revenue, it creates jobs. It creates an image in a regional way that this is a destination. And we have so many disparate groups here, as Marcus has mentioned, that don't have any unifying body. The budget for arts in this county, and by the way, we are the only county in the state without a real vibrant arts council at the county level. And it's trying to go ahead and set up a two-legged stool. You just can't do it and support all the tourism you want to do. So we would work through the county. Oh, I'm sorry, the budget's cut to $30,000 a year, license plate money. It's not enough, because the grant money that we used to give out, while it's not going to, if we give $500 to an emerging artist, it's not going to pay the rent, but it'll put brushes in their hands. It'll put clay between their fingers. It'll give them the opportunity to go ahead and do something, create something. Arts is what unites us across any culture, across religion, across age. One of the great events I've been to is at the Intel Galleries, where the U-Park students create art with their own challenges, and it's a wonderful thing that embraces it. D.T. Minnick was a huge loss when he left us. We could not afford to keep him. We've got some great people in there now. We need to continue in the same way, marketing the region, not just specific entities. And one of the things is with the Art Council, we always say, what do tourists do on a rainy day? What makes the area sticky? What do they do when they can't go to our beautiful beaches? And we have so much talent and so much capacity here, it's a no-brainer question. Support the arts, grow the communities. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. What is your stance on the proposed Dunedin Causeway Bridge replacement? I didn't do it. He chose it.
Wow. Wow. We have, in the city of Dunedin, we've really tried to be very proactive about this, and we've created a committee that is going to be walking lockstep with the county's efforts over the next 3 years. And it will be a 2 or 3 year process, and we in this city and we in this North County area are going to have a great deal of input, and keeping in mind that certain types of bridges will yield certain, provide more opportunities for amenities, and others will provide less or more. So there's going to be some real trade-offs, some real discussions, but I'm really proud of the way this city has taken that on itself. I don't know how many people were in this room when the state started talking about putting RVs out on Honeymoon Island. This place was full, and this place and this community, and I think it was beyond just Dunedin that came to this room that night, but they embraced the idea of making sure that you check here first before you start doing things to affect our causeway and our island. So I'm very proud of the fact that this community, along with North Pinellas County, will be right at the table every step of the way to make sure that what we really see and what we envision out there is listened to by the county commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks. One more round. This is, again, spontaneous question, not planted, nothing's organized here.
Bet me.
With the launch of Dolphin Tale 2 and the awareness of the film, how can we further capitalize on our success and bring more film production to Pinellas County?
I'm in favor of the Dunedin Bridge, too. Here's what's important about our state. We are in competition with the rest of the U.S. for film production. Hollywood, California is a dying place. Companies have found out we can go to locations where we don't have to build that set. Currently in the state of Florida, we created a sum of big dollars for tax credits to come do that. They were scooped up and they're tied up for the next 4 years. There are no tax credits left. That's what happened with the money that was spent to ensure that Dolphin Tale 2 could be filmed. That movie, that $5 million investment, brought in a unbelievable amount of dollars into our county for hotels, catering, Home Depot purchases, everything that goes into making a movie. That's why movie production is important to all areas of this state, but especially in Pinellas County with all we have to offer. So I think next year there's going to be a creation of movie funding dollars available to those that can show that we're real and we're going to come in and do a movie in your area. And I think that's good for our community, and it gives us exposure all over the world on that big screen every time it's shown.
During the recent recession, many cuts were made to the county's budget. Which, if any, do you think should be restored or reconsidered in the future?
Oh, I've got a laundry list. First thing, I know that the majority of the funding was put back into the Veterans Services Office. I'd like to take a look at that and see if it needs to be even more funding than it was originally before the huge cuts that it took during the recession. The other thing I'd like to pay attention to is our incredible park system here. You know, they've lost 50% of their funding during the recession, and that is such a jewel. You know, there's no urban county in this country, probably in the world, where you can go and have the kind of green space that we have here, the beautiful parks, passive parks that we have here. I want to keep them that way. I want to maintain them. I think I'll be working with the county administrator to do some reorganizing. I think some of the changes that were made the last 3 or 4 years were sort of incomprehensible. So I like the focus on the poverty areas, if there's something that the county can do. But yeah, the two things I mentioned are my top priorities, and economic development, working together with the cities again to create jobs and bring businesses here.
Okay, thank you. Marcus, I think you vote on that. Okay. And this question is, how will we continue to grow and ensure an adequate water supply for our county?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, the proposed, or when the county's looking at selling the property up in Pasco County, I do not support that. I think that although we have Tampa Bay water, we have a lot of municipalities that are looking at other water sources, looking at desalination, looking at that, because in the future we may have a shortage, may have a need. We still have, sitting on the aquifer up there, we still have a lot of access to it. I don't think we should get rid of that property, because that is our insurance. It was bought back in the 70s to make sure that we had adequate water source and supplies necessary. Right now, we're not having to use that. It's going through Tampa Bay water. But if for some reason something happens to Tampa Bay water, or we need to negotiate something differently, we have leverage because we have the property and the capability of doing that. Water is going to be extremely important because, as everyone knows, we're going through more and more, and especially if we continue to grow. Right now, statistics show that we've been pretty much flatlined right below 1 million people, but as taxes grow everywhere else, ours aren't too bad, but we need to improve them better. That we're going to get more residents, mostly retirees, hopefully more businesses and more high-tech jobs coming into the area. But water needs to be in the forefront, and I know many of the municipalities are looking at their own water sources. From the county standpoint, all we have is Tampa Bay and our property up in North County, or up in Pasco. Thank you.
Goes to Mark.
Yes.
I think that. Okay. Do you believe there is a greater need for public-private cooperation on projects?
Well, as I said earlier, the county should always be in the room and be there to facilitate things. Doesn't mean that we open up the checkbook and start writing big numbers to anybody. Even with the raise, if we were to somehow get involved with them again, one of the mistakes that was made in the past with the best of intentions was to cut them a percentage on the bed tax, or the amount of money they could receive. I would go ahead and establish a finite amount of money, and that way you could budget for it in the future. So yes, absolute participation, especially because District 4 that we're running for here has the largest amount of unincorporated area in the county. And while there's a voice for Dunedin, while there's a voice for Safety Harbor and Tarpon Springs, there's a large number of people that need to be represented, and their voice needs to be heard, and they have to have their concerns addressed too. Some of the areas that we still have in the community where we can develop, that still has mixed use opportunities, we need to go ahead, and I took this from somebody else, I borrowed this from Mayor Kreisman. It's great to go ahead and celebrate big business when they show up with the red carpet, but the real job for County Commission is to go ahead and cut the red tape for the small businessmen, and I truly believe that. Thank you.
And the second to the last question is, there have been several issues on the Pinellas Trail recently. What do you propose to do to keep this amenity safe for all users?
Well, and I think it's really important to look at this in context. I mean, from the total number of miles that we have in this beautiful park, this trail system, we have very few incidents. Okay, there are some areas that we have decided, or the city has decided, the county is looking at partnering with the city of St. Petersburg in a couple of areas to apply some kind of camera system. My biggest concern with that is that we just move the problem a block over or a block down, and before you know it, we're going to have cameras all over our trail system. So I shudder to think that. I think what we need to do is reach out to folks like you in this room that want to be volunteers and want to walk up and down our trails and just give a presence. Having a uniform of some type We have a good volunteer system now, but we need a bigger and stronger volunteer system, and just have some presence out there. It's just generally when you're, wherever there's been problems is when they're by themselves in a particular time of the day or a particular time of the evening or early evening when it's still light outside. So I really think that we have a great trail system. I think we need to embrace the trail system. Let's not overreact about a few incidents. However, that doesn't mean they're not important, and we need to bring out our volunteers, continue to work that, and continue to build that system as the really frontline protectors of the most beautiful thing that we have, I think, one of the most beautiful things we have in Pinellas County. Thank you.
The last question. Here
Yeah,
we
the
go.
last one.
Okay, this is the one we want.
All right.
It's about sand. I don't know.
Do you feel there are any opportunities for consolidation of services at the county level, possibly in conjunction with cities?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would love to look at the budget system again, because there is areas out there. One of the things we were talking about, like, the EMS areas in there is, we have a fire chief in Palm Harbor, we have a fire chief, up in Eastlake and all. Do we need to have, one so close to the other, those type of areas? There's been questions of, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in the unincorporated areas. We have 6 waste removal companies coming down our street twice a week. Do we really need that versus, if we could consolidate into one of those? So there's lots of ways of economic areas in there between there. I think it's really important that you look at the, District 4 has a lot of unincorporated areas, as some of the candidates have mentioned. Dunedin is the largest city within District 4. But, one of the things that a lot of people up in those areas, Eastlake, Crystal Beach, Ozona, is they feel like they've been kind of left out of everything. And it's always up to Tarpon Springs or Dunedin to make the big decisions. So when it comes to budget measures in those type of areas, I think we need to include those areas in there, so maybe we can unify areas, and that helps cut costs all across the board. And that's good for everybody in Pinellas County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're at the point where we're making closing statements, and let's pass it all the way back down to that end. Pat, in this case, the last shall be first, so Pat will be first, and Dave, you will be first of the Commission 4 candidates.
Okay, well, thank you, Sally, and thank you for those wonderful questions. I love local government. I love being a mayor. I love being a city commissioner, and I'm going to love being your county commissioner. I like working with the people in my community to create the quality of life that we enjoy here and to get your input into what we do. I love asking, even when you disagree with me, I love asking you your opinion and taking it into consideration, because I think that's what community is all about. It's not about what my friend wants or my political party or the person who gave me the biggest donation check. That has no place in local government, has no place on our Board of County Commissioners. And I'm going to represent you. My focus is going to be on, again, increasing jobs and attracting jobs to this area, good high-tech, high-paying jobs, not just more service jobs. Again, I want to work on the parks. One of the other cuts that we took in the county budget years ago and hasn't been restored yet is money for housing and homelessness. We had a nice trust fund going to create affordable housing for those people who had very low income that could subsidize developers to actually build that kind of housing, because they can't afford to build it unless somebody subsidizes it. I'd like to see that come back. I really want to see the Arts Council come back and be vibrant throughout this community, this county, not just in Pinellas, not just in St. Petersburg, although they have some wonderful treasures there. I think the whole county has treasures that we need to support and we need to pull together. Love to have your vote sometime between now and November 4th. If you want some more information, go to patgerard.com. Thank you.
Sally, thank you, and everybody that had some part in this wonderful night. Thank you again for caring enough to be here. I'm Ed Hooper. As I said, I've been a resident of this county for almost 43 years, and I still love being here. Otherwise, I would not be. This is a big deal, folks. This is a $1.9 billion business that you're a shareholder in, and you get to pay the freight because the government don't make money. They don't print money. It's our money. And it's important to have someone watching not only the needs of the county, but the wants. Because sometimes you can't have both. But you must prioritize what is important not only to keep us safe, to keep our water clean, to keep everything that we need to do, as that's why government was created, to protect us from stuff that we have no control over. So this is a business that needs someone, that has a pretty good common sense, has some experience, understands government budgeting. I've chaired a House committee on appropriations for 4 years. I know all the tricks of government budgeting. And if you're not careful, you will get left in the dust by all the tricks. You need someone watching out for this entire county of almost 1 million people. And I will tell you there's 617,000 of you that are registered to vote in this county. It's time to make sure that someone is there representing all the citizens. 2 out of every 3 of you live in an incorporated city, and that's good. But we've got to make sure that 1 out of 3 that does not get left out of being a vibrant part and being successful. We have to partner with our colleges. St. Pete College, St. Pete University of South Florida at St. Petersburg, we will be their partners. This county will be the place to be. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again, for, Sally and the Chamber of Commerce, for doing the things that you do in this community and for this evening. I think Dunedin has got incredible value. Wherever you go in the city, you can be proud of something. And, you know, it doesn't take a lot of tax dollars to throw at it. I mean, we have the lowest millage rate in the county with the exception of a few beach communities. And that's done because of you all stepping up and saying, this is important, and we're communicating with you, and we're letting you know that. And we're also letting you know, don't be wasteful. Be efficient, be effective. And I think that's the kind of thing that Dunedin has been for so many years. Those are the kinds of lessons that I've learned while on the job serving you. And I think it's what's really relevant at the next level. This is an important job. This isn't something to be taken lightly. I've worked almost 11 plus years as your commissioner and mayor to try and move this city forward through the good times and the bad times, trying to keep fiscal responsibility at the top of that list while we keep the quality of life immediately side by side. So value is important. And I do think this county has a lot to offer. It is made up of individual communities that are wonderful in their own right. But for us to be a great county, we have to be more than that. We have to be more than just the sum of the parts or the sum of the cities. And that means we have to play a greater role in facilitating. That means we have to play a greater role in helping people envision their future. I'm going to have to get this confirmed because I couldn't believe it. I met with the library people up in Eastlake. We've had Penny for Pinellas for 25 years, and this Eastlake and Palm Harbor have gotten 0 penny dollars in their communities. It just blows me away. This city has been so enhanced by the penny. So we need good, strong communication, good, strong leadership, and proven leadership. And I think that with your help, I can bring that to this county. Dave Eggers for Pinellas.com for more information. Thank you.
Oh, it's more? Oh, okay. Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. It's been a pleasure going through the process. People think we're all kind of knuckleheads for getting involved and sitting up here on this side of the table. But I'm going to tell you something. It's been a pleasure because if you're looking to elect a nice guy in November, you got 4 of us here. This race has been kind of off the radar a little bit because there's been no negative stuff in the press. We haven't done that. We kind of like each other for the most part. And if I see some signs knocked down, I help them out, and they do the same for me because that's just who we are. But it comes down to more of that. We'll talk big picture, little picture stuff. Again, it comes down to who do you trust? Who can make the decision in a timely way? And when I talk about the picture from sitting up high and looking down, sitting in the left seat of the airplane as I watch people board the airplane every time, I see people coming on and looking at me through the window, families, young children, and they're each of them putting in me their trust that I will safely complete this mission to get them where they want to be, not just for today, but for their future. And it's an awesome responsibility. And in terms of managing resources, a single airplane I fly costs twice as much as the entire Dunedin budget for a year. My experience through the military training, my experience as being a pilot, my experience as an East Lake Fire Commissioner is getting things done. I have a reputation around the county of not lingering on process so much as taking what needs to be done in an effective, cost-efficient way, taking care of the problem. We can do all kinds of studies around potholes. And the longer you study a pothole, the bigger it gets. And in the interim, it's a lot of flat tires. It damages commerce. It ruins everybody's mood. Let's fix the potholes, because little things become big things. I'm the guy that can go ahead and come to the table, force people together that may not agree on things, and come out a solution on the other side. We have a window of opportunity here now. There's a change in the county management. There can be a change in the whole flavor of things if we have the vision, if we have the courage, and we have the leadership. My name is Mark Weinkrantz, and I appreciate your coming out this evening.
Again, thank you for coming out. My name is Marcus Harrison. I am the independent candidate. I'm also a conservative Christian, okay, and I have no problem saying that. I am not a politician. I have not been involved in politics. So if you want somebody that's going to provide a fresh perspective, somebody that's a critical thinker that looks at the end results, okay, results oriented, what we are getting for our money, then vote for me. I want to make sure that we're having everything covered that we needed. As you've probably already seen in the article, our infrastructure, the sewer lines that busted down in St. Pete, or down in the unincorporated area that the county is responsible for. Well, guess what? All that underground utilities, whether it be water service, sewer, piping, it's old material and it has a finite lifetime. Okay, that has to be replaced. Okay, have you heard anything about the replacement? How is that going to impact everybody? What are we doing? We have potholes that are needed, but we also have the infrastructure. We want to underground everything, our cables and power and electricity, because we want beautification. Well, guess what? When it's overhead, if it breaks, it's easy to fix. When it's underground, unless it's set up for redundancy, it has a major issue. I understand reliability. I understand the requirements for making sure that we have the infrastructure for replacement and renewal, and what has to be done for maintenance to make sure that we can maintain our society and not just keep pushing it on down the line just because we want to spend more money somewhere else. If our millage rate, as property values go up, if our millage rate is not reduced, they've actually affected a tax increase on you if you don't realize that. And unincorporated residents are paying a high percentage, and we are not getting the services. We need better representation, which has already been discussed, because we need a committee that can represent us, because we don't have a city. Thank you. Again, Marcus Harrison.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sally. Again, thank you, everybody, for being here. 4 years ago, I did something that most people thought I was crazy, and that is I ran up against the current county commissioner. And why did that? Because she's got a big name. She'd been in there for a long time in between there, but I felt that the way that she was representing this county was wrong. You heard Dave talk about it. People up in East Lake, they weren't even getting parts of the penny for Pinellas. So you did have representation, but you just didn't have the right representation. But I went out there through the communities, and I worked hard, and maybe I didn't win, but you know what? I gave her a hard run for money. And also came a reality that, you know what? Things aren't so great. Well, here we are today again. And I've been out into the communities. I've talked to so many people out there. But I can tell you this. You've heard about fiscal responsibility. Well, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Fiscal responsibility is not a $2 billion light rail system and bus system. That's irresponsible in my eyes in between there. I had a lady call me today from 78 years of age, and she said to me, Carl, she says, I'm sitting here with 10 of my friends playing pinochle. And she says, I've got one question to ask you. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, the penny tax. I said, are you referring to the green light tax? She said, yes. She goes, tell me about it. Where do you stand? I said, I'm against it. And I told her why. And she said, thank goodness that somebody's out there that I can understand that's fighting for me. I may not be around 10 years from now to finish and to ride that. Somebody asked me today, why am I an MPA candidate? And the answer was very simple. It's because I believe in the people and the issues over the politics. I can't tell the difference between the Republicans and Democrats. You've got the Republican Party that's against the green light. You've got candidates that are for it. They're going back and forth. It's the issues, ladies and gentlemen, that make the difference. The $192 million that your county had in 2006 that spent it like a 16-year-old with a credit card. And where did it go? You could have had a rail system back then. It's time to take back District 4 and get good representation. I'm Carl Folkman, and I'm asking for your support. Let's defeat Greenlight Pinellas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates, and I appreciate all of you being here, speaking well, broad range of topics, so it was really interesting. And you know what? I'm looking out at the audience, and I didn't see anyone fall asleep. Did you? No. Great audience. Let's, candidates, give the round of applause to the audience. Hear, hear. Thank you.